Oh, man. Oh, I didn't see you there. How's it going? I'm Mike from Laughingstock Media. In this video, I'm going to be discussing a topic that people have been talking about and debating in the Dragon Ball fandom for many years now. Really, ever since Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods, and that has only intensified over the course of the entire Dragon Ball franchise. That would be, what is more powerful, Super Saiyan God or Super Saiyan 4? Super and the Z movie, and GT and their continuities smashing together for a versus battle, not only in terms of strength, but who would actually win between GT Goku and Super Saiyan God from Dragon Ball Super and beyond. But with that being said, let's get into that after this. Hey guys, before I begin, I just wanted to let you know that LSM now has memberships. If you want to join and support this channel, you could do so by going to my channel, clicking join, and joining at one of the 3 tiers, getting access to the emojis, the badges, the Discord server, exclusive content, and that much more as you go up with the different tiers, and help us to go even further beyond here at the channel. With that being said, let's get directly into the video so we could take a closer look at this and find out. Okay, so recently over on my community tab, I ran another poll in which I asked the first of many Dragon Ball Super versus Dragon Ball GT questions. Although, technically, this did debut with Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Gado, in Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods. But nonetheless, the point of the matter is that this is the battle. I wanted to see what people thought. You know, like a lot of these polls, like for example, my last video you guys can see in the top right corner, I discussed who would be able to win, Battle of Gods Goku or Super Saiyan 3 Vegito, Super Saiyan 3 Gogeta, and whether or not this form was in fact stronger than either of those. So you could definitely check that out, as well as, here's a sneak peek guys, some other ones to come, such as how far would Gogeta go in the series, as well as a hypothetical Vegito from the Shadow Dragons. And that's really where I decide to, well, start that with Super Saiyan 4 in terms of the power there. Because when I was initially doing the power estimates, I wanted to show Goku at his peak of power in Super Saiyan 4. I'll talk about his real peak of power in GT at the very end of the series in a future video after the Gogeta one, because I did a poll about that too. And the idea overall of Goku in his strongest form in the GT continuity, the separate branching continuity canon reality that is a sequel to the Dragon Ball Z anime that may or may not incorporate the movie continuity in there too, depending upon your perspective there, against the initial Super Saiyan God. And interestingly, a lot of people said that they believed that Super Saiyan God was stronger. Now, the reasoning behind that really came down primarily to on-screen feats. So with regard to Super Saiyan God Goku from Battle of Gods, the movie, there really aren't that many feats on screen when you really think about it. Now, with regard to that, a lot of people oftentimes, either because they haven't seen it that often or they just kind of misrecollect, will incorporate Battle of Gods, the movie, and the other adaptations into their memory, basically. Even though there are 3, maybe more, depending upon what you interpret some other versions of the manga as continuities of Battle of Gods, people will assume that Goku in all the versions destroyed, you know, the universe along with Beerus, or at least was on the verge of doing so with the clashing of their unsynced punches. But that isn't actually true, because in the original Battle of Gods movie that Toriyama himself worked on and rewrote the script, or at least, you know, did a totally different draft, introducing a lot of concepts, redesigning Super Saiyan God, the fact of the matter is that that never actually happened. Another thing is, too, that the power difference seems to be, well, different in terms of Goku comparative to Beerus, as well as the power of Goku in the anime and the manga variations here. In the anime, for instance, we're never really told what percentage of Goku, in let's say 100% of him, that he was truly utilizing before his power ran out. The same thing you could make the argument for the movie Battle of Gods, because Goku last mentions using 80% when Beerus then gets angry because Goku's holding back. You could make an argument that he went 100% in that form before he regressed to his base, which had absorbed that power, and went Super Saiyan, which maybe would increase it even more. Depends on, your perspective. In the anime version, he regressed back into being a Super Saiyan at the end of the fight. In the manga, he regressed into his base. Either way, in the manga, he re-transformed into the ability. Now, with that being said, or the transformation, obviously, but with that being said, the fact of the matter is that if we do want to make an amalgam version of Goku here, saying Battle of Gods Goku is all three, with the strongest feats or whatever, in terms of an on-screen feat, of course, Goku did something extremely impressive with Beerus. Their punches were hitting each other. Let me actually show my screen fully so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. Hopefully my my keyboard will actually work here so I can do this. So, Goku and Beerus, when they were punching each other, they were hitting one another. But unlike typically in Dragon Ball, really in every single fight other than this one for whatever reason, when the two of them punched, instead of their power, their fists and everything being perfectly lined up, they were slightly desynced. It's kind of like, let's say, for example, when Goten Trunks go to fuse, but whoops, we did this, or whoops, we did this, like they are not properly synced, and thus the explosive power from the kinetic energy, let's say, that's built up in their punches through the utilization of ki, will thus in turn ripple out from that in a chain reaction that grows with strength as it ripples throughout the entire macrocosm. It's so powerful that it transcends the dimensional barriers and goes into the afterlife, the different variations of it, as well as going to the Kaioshin realm. And so, according to the Elder Rao Supreme Kai Kaioshin, let's combine all those things, the Supreme Kaioshin, basically we found out that after 4 of those punches, if all of them had connected, of course 4 being the number of death, the same amount of months that Frieza trained, it would destroy all of existence. So that is a thing that people will utilize in terms of Goku. They'll be like, well, it's obviously Stomp then, because Super Saiyan 4 Goku, even at his most powerful, never displayed a feat on screen like that. And so that means that Goku easily would defeat Vegito, Gogeta, Super Saiyan 4 Goku, literally everyone in Dragon Ball GT, with his initial Battle of Gods Super Saiyan God. But with that being said, is that really true? Well, not really, no, because the fact of the matter is, as I mentioned in that previous video, discussing the power of Super Saiyan 3 Vegito and Gogeta comparative to Goku, when you actually watch the Buu Saga in the anime, which is the continuity that they typically carry over with Toei into the Dragon Ball Super anime, the very same one where we saw that feat with Goku, we see that Vegito, as a regular Super Saiyan, is fighting against Buuhan. Now, Buuhan is only like maybe somewhere in the neighborhood of a couple times stronger than Super Buu because he absorbed the additive power of Gohan, who is stronger than him, Goten, Trunks, and Piccolo. And thus, as a result, with his power, you would think that it wouldn't be anywhere near, in any way, shape, or form, the power of, well, Super Saiyan God and capable of the same feats. Actually, that's not true, though, because we saw in the time chamber that base Super Buu, if you want to call him that, was able to scream his way through a dimension into the normal realm from that separate realm after Piccolo destroyed the door. Not just that, but he then in the anime continuity applied that much further, because in the anime what we saw is that he was screaming while powering up. He surrounded himself in a barrier, and just powering up, letting loose in his rage, was screaming holes in dimensions, which inherently was going to scream so much, basically, taking the Dragon Ball trope and meme to an absolute even further beyond, that he was going to destroy the entire macrocosm. Just like what was happening with the clashing of Goku and Beerus's punches. So with that being said, the idea that people often put forward about the power of Super Saiyan God Goku isn't necessarily something that means that other characters before this would not necessarily have been able to accomplish if, let's say, I don't know, Vegito and Gogeta, two characters of comparable levels of strength, somehow fought each other and their punches were not synced up and were echoing outward. The thing is that when it comes to on-screen feats in Dragon Ball in general, Toriyama didn't utilize them anywhere near as often as like Marvel, DC, Image, Dark Horse, which is a DC imprint, everything like that. They never really like Wildcats, the Wildstorm and everything like that. They didn't utilize on-screen feats that often, whether it be Toriyama, the Toei staff, and so on, to carry on his legacy. In general, Toriyama would utilize feats in terms of just trying to make a scene more dramatic. Vegeta and Frieza were going to destroy the Earth or whatever planet they were on, such as Namek. Goku, when he was fighting against Cell, well, not only did he lose, which is really more narratively impressive, but that Cell got even stronger when he came back from blowing himself up and getting Goku's power, the teleportation, Shunkan Ito instant transmission, and then he was going to destroy the solar system because Toriyama's like, well, this is a bigger threat than destroying the Earth. Well, he could destroy the solar system. And then Buu, if left, to his own devices, would destroy the universe eventually. Whereas Janemba was reality warping the entire macrocosm by himself as a side effect of his power. So, you could theoretically argue that that is an even more impressive that Janemba was doing a feat than God Goku in a sense, right? Because it was just a side effect of him existing, kind of like Omega Shenron. Because remember, in Dragon Ball GT, for those of you who've seen it, if you haven't, who cares if it's canon or not, in your mind, it's canon to its own continuity and so on. It's still an official continuation of the story, regardless of whether that C word, and no, not the ones that the English and the Australians really like to use a lot. But in terms of canonicity, doesn't matter. But Omega Shenron, he was destroying the entire macrocosm with his negative energy just as a side effect of him existing. He was such a threat and so scary to the Kaioshin that they were like packing their bags and getting ready to leave the existence of the corporeal reality. I don't know where they were even going to go since they didn't establish the other universes back then, but I guess they were going to get out of Dodge because he existed at the time. And Goku was able to fight against him, even though obviously he was at a disadvantage. What's more impressive, destroying existence because you exist, or, the shockwaves of your not synced up punches going and rippling throughout the universe? So that's just a villain that exists, right? Like a Janemba. But in terms of Super Saiyan 4 Goku, well, remember, at the start of Dragon Ball GT, Goku had trained with for 10 years with the time skip after his fight against Kid Buu and when he went to meet Oob. Then at least 5 years pass in GT from the end of that into GT. In the English dub, they say 10, I believe, or something. But the fact of the matter is they never implicitly say in the Japanese, but it's implied to be 5. That means that Goku had 15 years of extra training between the Buu Saga and the Star GT. And that's just the start. At the start, Goku and his base stomps every character at their strongest at that point in the story of Dragon Ball Z. You could argue that he might even be able to beat Gogeta and Vegito from the Buu Saga in just his base form. The fact of the matter is that Goku, when he goes to fight against General Rildo, for example, says, wow, he's even more powerful than Majin Buu. Which form of Buu is he talking about? If he means Kid Buu, for instance, at the very end of the anime, Goku does say, well, Kid Buu, you're on a whole different level from all the other Buus, which could, possibly at least imply, for instance, regular Super Buu without the absorptions. Or even if you want to say that's not many times, or it's not necessarily as strong as that Buu, let's say that, Kid Buu is like somewhere approaching that, like somewhere around Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Either way, Goku's way more powerful in his base than he was as Super Saiyan 3, and he dominates Rildo, and then he only transforms after Rildo adds transformations to himself, and then in turn Goku again dominates him without ever even using Super Saiyan 3. The only person who truly overpowers and can really defeat Goku in terms of pure strength is baby Vegeta at that point, which gives Vegeta a insane power boost after, well, all the time that he had spent getting arguably more powerful since then, even though he took a little bit more of a relaxation period, let's say, after the end of Z. Goku, at the very start of the series, would stomp Super Saiyan 3 Goku from the Buu Saga, right? And that is basically a little bit weaker, you can argue, than the Goku who fought against Beerus as his, on King Kai's planet before he got the God power-up. Goku only gets stronger from there when he goes into space and he's fighting against various enemies, and then he comes back to Earth, and then he gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger as the series goes along. He gets Super Saiyan 4. He's able to just go leaps and bounds beyond anything he had before. And there's numerous different examples that you could use of that throughout the series. I mean, just as a base form, Goku with his Kamehameha was able to blow away a wall, like a hole through that wall, and basically shatter the wall of Sugoroku's space, which is its own separate dimension. He just was able to do that in his base with a Kamehameha. The Kamehameha could basically do anything in GT if you really put your mind to it. But the fact of the matter is that, with that being said, that was his base. He was smashing through dimensions, right? That's at very least Super Buu-Han level feat that I just mentioned before. Okay, so multiply that by Super Saiyan 3's transformation. Multiply that by Super Saiyan 4's power-up. Now, what is the multiplier for Super Saiyan 4? This is where we start to kind of get into the multipliers of the different forms and which one is superior at that point in time or just in general. As I discussed in my previous video I had mentioned before, there is a strong argument to be made that Super Saiyan God Goku from Battle of Gods had a significantly higher multiplication via the Super Saiyan God ritual comparative to every other time afterward. That could either be because the ritual and the first time you get God Key and that power-up will give you a greater boost, or because the fact that Goku had, a boost essentially from absorbing the power of all of his friends and family, all the other Saiyans, during the initial failed ritual. Whether he kept that energy, whether or not that's what was multiplied, according to Toriyama, Super Saiyan God is a multiplier, as a lot of people in my last video were arguing that it isn't. People love to argue, and then, no matter how much you try and explain to them in comments, they won't listen. So that's why at this point I'm just going to keep doing videos instead of arguing with people who just want to be right no matter what in the comments section. Shots fired. Either way, the fact of the matter is that Super Saiyan God Goku seems like he never gets anywhere near that boost. Yes, even the manga version, guys, because so many people want to be like, he didn't absorb the power in the manga. They had 2 pages to say all the dialogue they needed to do at that point. The manga was so rushed at that point, and even later points, like the Tournament to Power, that of course they couldn't say that, but either way, in the original version that Toriyama himself wrote with the Toei staff, and then in the anime, he did absorb it. So we could just make that assumption for the manga continuity regardless. The fact of the matter is that Goku, he never seems to get anywhere near as powerful after that. Like, for example, in the Tournament of Power, when Goku goes into his Super Saiyan God form, what do they say there? Wow, this form is so much faster than the other ones. They don't say this form is leaps and bounds more powerful and puts everything to shame because he has this God Key that even Krillin can surpass because he trains off screen with weights in his basement, like me, basically. And so, it's said, oh, it's faster. Like it's stronger than Super Saiyan 3, I guess, but it's never said to be anywhere near as substantive of a boost after the fight with Beerus. And even then, we see that characters just get stronger than that level of power that Goku put out when he was fighting Beerus, just training on their own. So it really devalued that in a sense. But either way, the fact of the matter is, in terms of a multiplier, well, what about Super Saiyan 4? Now, a lot of people say that Super Saiyan 4's multiplier is 10 times Super Saiyan 3. I really strongly disagree with that based upon actually watching the series. A lot of people get that based upon other power scalers videos, or they'll get that from guidebooks that they like half read on like a forum somewhere that might be mistranslated, or, you know, they just oftentimes in this fandom, to continue putting people on blast, Kamehameha times 10 blast. The thing is that too much in this fandom, people just kind of like take the guidebooks as gospel. And the truth is that they're really more like apocrypha. Like they are, sure, Toriyama might have contributed a little bit to them. He might have supervised whatever that means, a little bit. He put his name on there so he could sell them. But at the end of the day, the guidebooks are just, well, not the same level of canonicity as any of the manga or the series or anything like that. They're just a thing that's supposed to give a little bit more context, but itself are generally contradictory. If you watch Dragon Ball GT, at no point does it only seem like Goku got 10 times stronger than Super Saiyan 3. Because the thing is, you have Super Saiyan Ozaru, basically, Golden Great Ape. Goku, when he's a Golden Great Ape, and the same thing for Baby, is vastly more powerful than his Super Saiyan 3 was. Maybe you could say Great Ape was 10 times stronger than Super Saiyan 3. Look how Baby gets wrecked when Goku starts to go into that form. Look how powered up Baby becomes when he does that, where he's able to fight a little bit before he gets powered up and then could fight way more against Super Saiyan 4 Goku. Goku gets a transformation on top of the Ozaru form. He condenses everything down to be way more powerful. And like we saw with Super Buu, especially when I broke it down in my own dedicated video in the top right corner on my channel, if you guys don't see those cards in the description, wherever have you, the fact of the matter is that Buu got vastly more powerful when evil Wrath Buu absorbed him because he not only took the power and reduced the limitations of the Kais on it, but also additionally augmented the body in a way to where it was far stronger. Kind of like Cell, you could argue, with his perfect form, made himself far greater than the sum of his parts with the androids to where he could fight against even Goku with ease, like half power maybe, after he stepped out of the time chamber with training with Gohan for almost a year. So Super Saiyan 4 is way more than 10 times Super Saiyan 3. And again, base Goku at the point of the Shadow Dragons, the very end of the series before the 100-year time skip, is vastly more powerful than he was at the start, which was vastly more powerful than Buu and Super Saiyan 3 Goku. You could argue maybe he was referring to Buuhan, right? Boo-earns. Are you saying Boo-earns or Boo? Boo! But no, he was way more powerful than that. So you can make a strong argument that not only is Goku's power greater than Goku from Battle of Gods at the very end of Dragon Ball GT, but not just that, but his transformation multiplier is stronger and greater than Goku's Super Saiyan God multiplier every single time he uses it after Battle of Gods. It could be even greater than Super Saiyan Blue, because the thing is that Super Saiyan Blue, as I talked about with Herms in that video, again, the cards and description, my channel, what is the multiplier for Super Saiyan Blue, could be 10 times Super Saiyan as opposed to being 50 like so many people say, because again, multipliers that they read in the guidebook. And so, the thing is that could be, for all we know, 20 times stronger than Super Saiyan 4, right? Like or Super Saiyan 3. Super Saiyan 4 could be 100 times stronger than Super Saiyan 3, which means that Super Saiyan 4 would have a higher multiplier than God and Blue, even with, some Kaioken thrown in on there too. And also, the base power of Goku at this point could also possibly be higher than Goku's base form was after his fight with Beerus. It's really difficult to tell because the fact that, well, again, GT doesn't have as many on-screen feats. It mostly uses the comparative power scaling. This character can beat this character, who can beat this character, and so on and so forth. But, you know, there will be people down below in the comments who will give all the numbers and will break it down way more in depth than me, who are even more knowledgeable about GT than I am at the end of the day, who watch that all day, every day, all year, every year. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, they're like Snoop Dogg, except with GT instead of, well, let's keep going. The fact of the matter is that, with that being said, again, you can make the argument that Super Saiyan 4 has a higher multiplier than God post-ritual and is generally better. I mean, the thing is that when you think about it, not only in terms of the actual design of the form, it is by far my favorite, which I talked about, again, another card if I haven't run out of them yet, about why Super Saiyan 4 is the best transformation. It symbolizes the real primal state, the merging and the marriage, let's say, of the Super Saiyan form, the power of Prime Goku with the Ozaru, the Saiyan heritage, all in one. Whereas Super Saiyan God, well, he gets thinner, he has red hair and a kind of a fiery aura, and yeah, that's about it. The fact of the matter is that in terms of like power utilization, Super Saiyan 4, according to those very same guides, by the way, is supposed to be the power maximized, basically, of the Saiyan. It's the highest amount of power they could bring out. So it's almost like Goku's Super Saiyan Ultimate form, you know, like Gohan Beast, but for Goku. And we saw just how powerful Gohan Beast is compared to Goku in the manga, right? Not that I want to make a false equivalency or anything, but the fact of the matter is that, I know I say the fact of the matter a million times, don't take a shot every time I do that. Regardless, the idea being put forward is that Super Saiyan 4 overall could be just a superior form, and Goku at the very end of the series prior to that time skip could in fact be stronger than Super Saiyan God Goku from Battle of Gods. Using comparative power scaling, using on-screen feats, you could say that Goku from Battle of Gods in the anime variation is stronger. And thus, you can make an argument that he would in turn win the fight. Now, with that being said, there is another thing I've seen many people mention over the years, which is that apparently in one of the guidebooks, it compares, it might be the GT Perfect files, it compares Super Saiyan, well, you know, Super Vegito to the power of Super Saiyan 4, if my keyboard will work. But really, when you think about it, again, doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, Goku at this point in the story is vastly more powerful than the fusions from the Buu Saga. Like, again, that's another reason why the guides sometimes could just be nonsense. You know, like, I'm not trying to be like, oh, well, the power maximized on one hand and throw that away. I'm not picking and choosing, cherry picking things like that. I'm just saying, like, at the end of the day, the thing that I always go on, the thing that matters most, I think the thing that the audience should really kind of take into account far more than anything in some guidebook that, you know, Toei and Shueisha and Toriyama never really cared anywhere near as much as Dragon Ball fans who like to debate on the internet, is what is in the story on screen and conveyed to us the most. Would Goku really, at the very end of GT, at the peak and prime of his power, as Super Saiyan 4, be weaker than a fusion from 16, 17 plus years prior? It doesn't make any sense. So I don't buy that idea. I think that Goku is vastly more powerful, maybe even as a Super Saiyan in the very first arc of GT before he even goes into space, than the power of those characters. Goku as a kid does not get weaker. It is never said that. He just can't control his Super Saiyan 3 with his body as much, and also can't use instant transmission until eventually he can. And so, yeah, with that being said, at the end of the day, I do think that you can make a strong argument that Super Saiyan 4 Goku would be more powerful than Super Saiyan God Goku from Battle of Gods, even with the God Ki boost and everything like that. I mean, after all, the God Ki boost is shown to really not be necessarily as great as it's made out to be in the narrative of that movie, with the continuity that comes afterward, and even the anime, or especially in the anime variation of it. because characters are stronger than it left and right everywhere. And so, you know, you could still make an argument based upon on-screen feats that maybe Super Saiyan God Goku is stronger and could win. But again, if Goku as a Super Saiyan 4 is already stronger than Vegito early on in GT, Vegito, the same character who just as a Super Saiyan was able to overcome the power of Buhan, who just by screaming and powering up was destroying the entire macrocosm with a chain reaction, just like what was happening in one way or another, sort of like what we saw with Super Saiyan God Goku, then you would think that obviously based upon pure power itself, Goku could do the exact same things if he just so happened to punch a character and their power didn't go into each other. That whole thing was a contrivance anyway. I really liked that because it was like, this is so ridiculous and so like stupid how powerful these characters are. It's like Superman punching Superman, shattering reality, and Tim Drake survived and stupid stuff like that, you know? But the idea is that, you know, again, I think Dragon Ball fans put a little bit too much credibility into feats on screen, and you know, no other time in the series did that ever happen. The only time we can make an argument that something similar happened is when Gogeta punched Broly, and then they like went into another dimension because they shattered reality and stuff like that. But again, that was, you know, not to say that other characters necessarily, I guess, couldn't do that. You could imply maybe it was, you know, evocative of their level of power at the time. But either way, like a lot of people also, I do want to address this, oftentimes will be like, well, because Goku is fighting against Beerus, that's the only reason it happened. And we did see when Beerus was fighting Champa in the baseball episode later on, where Yamcha, you know, does the Yamcha pose after he gets hit by a baseball, because Yamcha is just a meme in Super. The fact of the matter is that they were destroying the universe because they were clashing with each other. But again, they never say it's because the power of the Hakaishin or some special quality of the ritual god Goku. It's just that their power is not synced up and it's not canceling each other out, and thus is dispersing in a chain reaction to destroy the universe. The power of the kinetic energy gets stronger as it goes on. It's not to say that the initial clash of their punches itself within, like, I don't know, a 10-foot radius would destroy the universe, but somehow it rippling out further and further gains more and more momentum to where it could eventually, well, you know, destroy everything. But even then you can make an argument, well, Goku, when he powered up to Super Saiyan 3 in the Buu Saga, was felt as far as the Kaioshin realm without them even paying attention. They just, like, started to sense it. So it is kind of also like, well, if Goku could do that as a Super Saiyan 3, just be felt outside the physical universe, the physical macrocosm where the little ball is orbiting that they exist in, couldn't he, you know, deal way more damage than people give him credit for? Couldn't Vegito and Gogeta also do that? Does it really make the feat of power that we saw with Super Saiyan God in the movie that impressive when you think that maybe a ton of other characters, including Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta and a lot of characters in GT like Omega Shenron, could do the exact same thing? They just weren't written to do so? I'll let you decide. That's why at the end of this, I leave it up to, well, you. Because even though this is a very in-depth topic that we were discussing here, fact of the matter, guys, is that it is relatively inconclusive. This isn't Death Battle where it's like, oh, by the way, this one character that we keep having battles with over and over and over, he's limitless, so he always wins the end. No, it's, as a matter of fact, not like that. I recognize that a lot of this also comes down to writing. It's like Stan Lee says, oh, who wins versus battle? Whoever I wrote them to win, you know? And the two continuities might not be as comparable as people make them out to be, but I think I gave enough evidence to support why there's a strong argument that Super Saiyan 4 not only is just a superior transformation, but also would be able to defeat Super Saiyan God from Battle of Gods, and maybe a number of characters moving forward in the story. Maybe Super Saiyan Blue Goku in Resurrection F, maybe in the Universe 6 tournament. Who knows just how far Super Saiyan 4 would be able to go. Maybe I'll even do a video about that. But before that, I do plan to do some other ones. So stay tuned for those. Thanks for watching. Make sure to stick around because there's a lot more to come in the future.
Y'all, and you better subscribe.